I am getting a little 5 minute lead time here so I can give folks the opportunity to join us on Facebook and on YouTube. But this is the Self Mastery Challenge. Welcome, everyone. We're a little bit early, 5 minutes early, 4 minutes early at this point. So I'm just going to give the good people opportunity to join us. I hope you have had the opportunity to enjoy the first class, which was last week. I've been thinking a lot about everything that was discussed during that class, and hopefully, it will make for an even more meaningful and enriching class in this second round. And I see we got a couple of folks joining us. Greetings, greetings, greetings. Good afternoon. Equishel, you're a little bit early, so I'm gonna just hang out for 4 minutes, 3 minutes now. Got a 3 minute countdown. This self mastery challenge is also part of a an open enrollment time within the School of Orisa Studies. Um, we're not operating on a semester system or anything like that, but there are natural ebbs and flows, rises and falls, and this is a generally a time when we see an uptick in interest and participation and interest. So um, I'm just going to ride that momentum and invite folks to take a look at what's happening in the School of Orisha Studies. Familiarize yourself with our mission, our purpose, what kinds of activities we're engaged in, and hopefully make the decision to formalize and organize your learning experience by joining us. But I suppose there's even instances where just entertaining the lessons and the structure and the order and the systems that we have in the School of Orisha Studies, it prompts people to think about what they would like to know, what they'd like to do, what kind of a learning environment is best for them. And I suppose that some people go on and find some other kind of a learning environment if they, don't partake of what we do in the School of Orisha Studies. So, so long as people are expanding their understanding and deepening their practice, then that's a win for everybody. So I want to just, you know, encourage everyone to keep seeking learning opportunities, keep seeking opportunities to deepen your practice, you know, and that's going to make for a better experience for all of us, right? For all of us. And um, so this self mastery challenge is is my contribution to that broader movement to encourage and facilitate learning. And because of my own life experience and because of my training, the learning that I'm most concerned with is the learning of about yourself in relationship to all of the different aspects and facets of the Orisha tradition. So there are so many um, features to our tradition: divination and sacrifices and rituals and ceremonies and medicines and beads and icons and shrines. Like there's just so much to capture your attention and your imagination in our tradition. But I think oftentimes because of that, people tend to lose sight of the introspective, meditative, self improvement aspects of our tradition, or basis of our tradition. I won't call them aspects. I think the basis of our tradition is self-discovery and self-mastery, right? And so this self-mastery challenge is a small way to draw attention to that perspective, and as I mentioned in the first class, lay out a treatment plan that if you follow, then you will be able to exercise self-mastery, and it will demonstrate as your ability to, or increase capacity to restore your African mind, right? Ultimately, I understand that the restoration of your African mind is going to be your decision. It's not something that I'm going to do for you. It's not something that somebody else is going to do to you. It's going to be something that you are going to recognize, and it's going to be as natural as breathing. And through being authentically you, as you really, really know you must be, you will, I believe, experience the restoration of your African mind. You're going to be able to make all of the decisions necessary to be true to your authentic self. So let's get into our class today, and I think it will help illustrate why I say such a thing. You know, in the first class, we talked about destiny. We talked about Ori, we talked about the ancestors, and we talked about those in the context of identity. And explicitly, I said, identity is destiny. Identity is destiny. That's paramount for your understanding and your approach. If we're going to talk about, right, I'm your doctor, and we're gonna talk about your skin, or we're going to talk about your teeth, or we're going to talk about your stomach, or we're going to talk about your feet. Each one of those is different. If we're going to talk about your car, we're going to talk about your house. Like, all of those are different, and it helps for you to have a basic understanding of what are we talking about when we talk about the plumbing system. What are we talking about? We talk about changing, rotating tires. What are we talking about when you're going to do this to my teeth? Like, what's it made of? How does it work, generally speaking? That's the general idea here. And so when we say that identity is destiny, it's also important to be more explicit about that, and say that your identity has been inherited. Some of your identity you inherited from your mother's lineage. Some of your identity you inherited from your father's lineage. And then some of your identity you chose. And then another portion of your identity was given to you by Orisa, your Akunlegba, right? So your identity is a composite. Your identity is as personal and as intimate as it is. You should understand that it is not just this one block. There are several influences that make your identity distinct, right? And under ordinary circumstances, all you would be doing when you consult Ifa or you consult Orisha, you'd be trying to, balance out the discrepancies, because maybe there's some discrepancies between your mother's lineage and your father's lineage. Maybe there's some discrepancies between your prenatal choice, your what you're doing, and what your ancestral promise is. Your ancestors sent you to do one thing and you're doing something else. Maybe there's a discrepancy between some way that you're living and the Orisha that accompanies you. You might want to eat a certain thing. You might want to go to a certain place. You might want to drink a certain thing. And that is contradictory to the Orisha that walks with you, right? So ordinarily, under just basic circumstances, all of us are trying to balance out the discrepancies in that. And then within every individual, there's internal discrepancies. What you're thinking and what you're feeling are different. What you're doing and what you're thinking are different, right? So we would say, hey, someone's Ori is looking this way, and their feet is going that way, right? So we pray that whatever our Ori envisions for us, our feet will carry us there. So you could have discrepancies on all those different levels, right? That would prompt you to go consult Ifa. But the reason why I'm doing this particular class, though, this treatment plan, is because there's an elephant in the room. There's the elephant in the room. So let me back up a little bit. I've been doing this for a minute, like 30 years a minute. Like, I've been working in the community. I've been teaching. I've been coaching. I've been counseling. I've been advising people for 30 years in my community. Oakland, Southern California. I've been doing this work. This is my life's work. All right. After I've seen 1,000 people, theoretically, after I've seen 1,000 people, I start to see clusters. I start to see patterns. Start to see trends. I start to see, hey, here's 50 people coming to me with these symptoms, but there's one root problem. Here's 50 people coming to me with these symptoms, but there's one root that's the problem. Here's another 20 people. Right, and I'm looking at the way these problems, these symptoms cluster. And I got to tell you, beyond the shadow of a doubt, the overwhelming majority of the problems that you face as an African American are the result of white supremacism. That's not to say that you don't have an active role to play in your destiny. It's just to say that the way that the things are set up is skewed and biased in ways that are not naturally accommodating to you. So we go back to the ugly duckling syndrome. 50 years into integration, 50 years, basically where we are today. We're about 50 years into integration. We've penetrated the sciences, history, the sports, athleticism, you name it. We've gone all the way into it. And you know what we found in every one of those disciplines, in every one of those sectors of life? No matter how well we've done, no matter how many records we've broken, no matter how pioneering we've been, you know what we've found consistently across the board? We are the ugly duckling. According to all of their standards, according to all of their structures, according to everything that's high quality, we are the ugly ducklings. We can conclude that safely. And I'm saying this from a kind of a clinical standpoint. I don't mean this to be political. I mean this to be clinical. I mean this to be a natural observation of everything that we've seen and experienced after 50 years of integration, so that we can be real about what we're facing and why this is the elephant in the room. How are we the ugly duckling? Let me give you the best example based on what I do. Listen, I've been to England, I've been to France, I've been to Canada, I've been to Mexico, Trinidad, Cuba, Dominican Republic, Ecuador. I've been to West Africa, I've been to East Africa, I've been to more than 50 cities across the United States. You want to know the best way to build consensus among black people right now? The Muslims, the Christians, the English speaking, the French speaking, the continental, the Latin American, the Caribbean, East Coast, West Coast, North, South, Midwest, all you're going to build consensus on this. Is voodoo good or evil? Oh! The total consensus. You're going to, in seconds. In seconds, you'll get consensus. That is a sickness. That's a mental illness. That all of us, we can go across the board. It's crazy that I can say such a ridiculous thing and it be true. It's true. The one thing that all of our people can agree upon, or the overwhelming majority of our people can agree upon, is that voodoo is evil. Orisa is wicked. All of that stuff that you guys do, your indigenous religious practices and traditions, that's evil. The Muslims, the Christians, the French, the English, all black people are going to agree with you on that. You're not going to get any pushback on that. It's a foregone conclusion. That is mental illness, y'all. That is the ugly duckling syndrome. That's the elephant in the room that all of us across the globe have got to just sit down and acknowledge the degree to which we have been programmed to despise ourselves. It's very, 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 very like it's right there in your face. Vodun is the perfect example. If you ever doubt, just talk about Vodun openly with our people anywhere, and you'll see exactly the depth of our sickness. Now, to just lightly compare, we all know we're not afraid of everybody else's indigenous knowledge systems. We're not afraid to put dream catchers up over our beds, over our children's beds. We're not afraid to walk into the Chinese restaurant with General Kwan out there and Kuan Yin at the door. We ain't afraid of that. We don't have no problem going to the Indian restaurant and Lord Ganesh there with all of his things. Those things don't bother us at all. Talking about the Greek gods and Hermes and Persepolis and Psycheles and all of that. We don't have a problem with that. Oh, but we want to talk about Shanko. We want to talk about Eshu. We want to talk about Ogun. We want to talk about Vodun this, Vodun that. Everybody's scared. That is the ugly duckling syndrome. That's the part that we've got to heal. For everybody across the board. Because until you get that part under wraps, your personal thing is going to perpetually be off. Right? Because it's one thing for me to tell you, yo, you're a swan. It's one thing for me to tell you, right? And you're like, yo, that's a relief. I'm a swan. You're a swan. It's something else for me to take you into swan world. Come on over here, hang out with us, do what swans do. Swim where we swim. Eat what we eat. Do what we do. That's something else, right? But then it's even something beyond that for me to say, now, given the fact that you're a swan, you do swan things with other swans. Now I'm going to give you the blueprint and the playbook for you to be a phenomenal swan. For you to be the most amazing swan that you could possibly be. That is where we find Ifa. Right? So I'm telling you you're a swan, but now I want to give you the playbook and the blueprint for being the best possible swan that you could be. And this is how Odu, the sacred text, sacrifices and observances, which most people call taboo, how those three can help you restore your African mind. How those three heal destiny. Okay? The stories are not like biblical stories. The stories of Odu Ifa are not like stories in the sutras or the Bhagavad Gita or the Quran. The stories that are in the Odu Ifa are based upon situational reality. Those stories arise in direct response to your position, your coordinates. The stories are like the map, right? The story says this is the map, this is where you are, and then here's a red star. You are here, and you're trying to get here. These are all the things that you're going to encounter between here and there. That's the first thing that the Odu does for you. It puts your experience into context relative to your identity, relative to your destiny. That's important. You're not going to get very far with Ifa trying to balance things out for you if you want to play the lotto. Ifa's not for playing the lotto. When you come to Ifa, you're asking Ifa questions about your destiny. Just like you're not trying to use an AM, FM radio to catch internet signals. You're trying to download music on your AM, FM radio. It's not designed to pick that up. You follow what I'm saying? The Odu Ifa is intended to pick up the frequency of your destiny. That's what you need to be asking Ifa about your destiny, not trivialities. So the story is giving you the context for your position relative to your destiny, right? The second thing, though, is the role of the sacrifice. Once Ifa has told you that this is the lay of the land, this is where you are, this is where you're trying to go, this is what you're going to encounter along the way, boom, then you give the sacrifice, and the sacrifice is what activates the map. All the players are in where they're supposed to be, when they're supposed to be there, and the sacrifice is the director saying action. And everybody does what they were supposed to do according to Ifa's prediction. That's the purpose of the sacrifice. That's what it's intended to do. That's how the sacrifice helps to restore balance and order in your life. Okay? The third thing are the observances. The observances are what keep you in alignment. Once you got your story straight, you made the sacrifice to activate that story. You keep observances. There are things that you don't do, and there are things that you do, so that you stay in harmony and in alignment with the word that Ifa has given for you, that this is your coordinates, and the sacrifice you did to activate everything within those coordinates. Right? And when you do so, you align, not only because your destiny is composite, it's aligning you, your lineage, your relationship with the Orisa, all with the will of Olodumare. Okay? So, one verse of Ifa, for me, epitomizes this dilemma that we have, which is how to heal our lives, how to bring balance and stability back into our lives when we haven't, we don't even know how things got off. We just have kind of awakened to chaos, confusion, right? But in the end of the day, at some point in our development, we realize, hey, this is off. I don't know the source of it. I don't know the origin of it, but I know something is off. I need direction. All right. So this particular verse encapsulates the ways in which we can find ourselves just in situations that are beyond our understanding. But if we are willing to do what Ifa advises in the way that Ifa advises, we'll see how the story, the sacrifice, and the observances will align us with our true identity and our destiny. So what happens? This is a story that tells us about a particular king, the Oloko. He had all the things that a king should have except for children, which means he had no future. He had to have a future, otherwise, as soon as he left the throne, somebody could easily remove him from the throne and then truncate his line by putting their own children on the throne for all of the time. So this was a big problem in the palace. The senior wife knows that she's expected to, bring fertility into the palace. And given the fact that there were no children, people would suspect her. So she came up with a scheme. And this scheme was going to absolve her of any guilt and make it obvious and kind of shame the king at the same time. So she was going to be able to clear herself and get out of the situation, like, with the upgrade or the ability to, downgrade. Anyway, so she went to all the other queens and she convinced them that the king should take up one of the slave girls and try to reproduce with her. They agreed. They went to the king. He accepted. And much to their surprise, the slave girl immediately got pregnant. She gave birth to a child and the floodgates were open. The palace was just overrun with children within a few years. Now, this same senior queen has another problem because Agana, who was the child of the slave girl, is now the heir apparent. And so she's thinking, man, there's no way that this slave boy is going to become king before my son. So she goes back and she convinces the queens that Agana and his mother are slaves and they don't deserve to be in the palace and they should go. So they go and they pressure the king. The king gives in. Agana and his mother are banished. They have to go live in the forest. Agana may be like 16, 17, I don't know, maybe 20 years old. He's living in the forest with his mother. And after a few years, he's totally disgusted with life. So he decides to go consult Ifa. He says, this can't continue. What's going on? Why is my life so miserable? They said, Agana, you need to do two things. You need to sacrifice and appease your destiny. You have a good destiny. Your destiny wants to show you how great it is. So, and then the other thing is you're gonna be generous. Someone asks you to help, you're gonna be helpful just because it's the right thing to do. So Agana is making sacrifice, and while he's making sacrifice, he's appeasing his Ori, and he's calling out to his Ori, pleading with Ori, where's the blessing that I chose in heaven? You were the one supposed to supply me with all good things, my Ori. Where are you? Where are you? And some of his peers overheard him, and they knew that he used to be a prince, and they laughed him and clowned him. They said, Agana, there's no need for you to be asking about your Ori. We can tell you have a bad Ori. That's why you're out here living in the woods with your mother. Don't waste any time doing that anymore. Agana is, he feels bad, but he continues appeasing his Ori, goes on his way. He meets some of his other peers, and they ask him to participate in Aro, which is a rotating farming. So everybody who has land will all go to each other's land at different turns and help work the land for each other, or help each other build houses, or clear a road in front of their house or something like that. But since Agana didn't have any land, he lives in a treehouse. There was never going to be an opportunity for him to ask the people to come work for him. But still, when his friends asked him, he remembered what Ifa said. He went along, and he was helping. While Agana was out doing this, the king died in the palace. They went and asked Ifa about all of the princes. Ifa rejected them all. Finally, one of the elder chiefs said, "What about Agana? He is actually the firstborn. Ask Ifa if that's the one." Ifa says, yes, it's Agana. So now the royal guards go out to find Agana. When they get to the treehouse, they meet his mother. And they say, where's Agana? She says, he's out there, working on the land of some of his friends. He said, is this his bag? She said, yes, that's his bag. And he's not here? She said, he's not here. Go get him right now. When the mother goes to go get Agana, the chiefs pull one of the king's royal daggers, and they stuff it into his bag. They plant it in his bag. Agana comes, and they say, Agana, is this your bag? He says, yes. He says, okay, open it up. He opens it up. Thief! Agana's a thief. They drag him through town. They humiliate him and tell everyone that he's a thief. Agana gets to the palace. He thinks for sure he's about to be executed. They blindfold him, they strip him, they bathe him, they redress him in fine clothes. He doesn't know what's going on. He's still blindfolded. You can hear the footfall of all the people in the community. They remove the blindfold, and they put the crown of authority on his head, and everybody bows before him. Ka BSC. Agana looks over at all the people, and he can see his peers who have been ridiculing him before, and he invited them to praise his Ori with them. And they praised his Ori as a great Ori. They prayed that their Ori would be half as good as his own Ori. But through that particular verse, the reason why I love it is because we can see that Agana had chosen, his identity was a king, right? His identity was a king, but his fate was to live in the palace and be thrown out of the palace, to be banished from the palace. That was what put him outside of his destiny. But then by going to consult Ifa, he got the proper orientation that says, hey, this is what really should be going on. This is what you need to do. This is the sacrifice you need to make. And in addition to the sacrifice, these are the observances. This is something that a behavior modification that you need to carry out in order to align with your blessing, right? And so that's the way divination, sacrifice, and observances, they work together. They are part of one system. If you extract one from the system, then the whole thing will collapse. It will become useless. So when you are ready to align yourself with your true origin, with your true nature, with your prenatal choice, when you want to balance out whatever the discrepancies might be between your mother's lineage and your father's lineage, between your own personal choice and your ancestral promise, whatever discrepancies there may be between you and your Orisa, with proper consultation, sacrifice, and observances, you have the capacity to put yourself back into alignment and heal your destiny. When Agana healed his destiny and bounced out all of the obligations of his prenatal choice as well as his lineage, he ascended the throne and became the king himself. All of us are not going to become kings. Some of us are truck drivers. Some of us are artists. Some of us are mothers. Some of us are painters. Some of us are lawyers. Some of us are scientists, right? But we're going to reach the apex of our potential through making the proper sacrifice, keeping the observances, and adhering to whatever the advice that Ifa gives us through the sacred text. So that is our second class. And what I want to encourage you to do is I want to encourage you to find out more about divination. I want you to find out more about the stories and the kinds of stories that come out through divination. I want you to get a deeper understanding of the role that divination plays in our prenatal choice. Are you familiar, for example, with the fact that Ifa tells us that we have to carry out 7 heavenly tasks before we're even born into the world? I want you to start to familiarize yourself with the depth and the full significance of what divination is, so that you can prepare your mind to really go into it with a deliberate and purposeful attitude and poise. And to learn more about divination and Yoruba tradition overall, please feel free to visit me at obafemio.com or orishalifestyle.com and make your way to the School of Orisha Studies and take advantage of whatever enrollment opportunities are available to you right here, right now. Next week, we're going to do it again, and we're going to talk about more specifically how Odu can help rewrite your destiny. So I look forward to hearing from you soon. Oh, one more thing. I'm going to put an evaluation link in the comment section. Please go there, fill it out, let me know how I've done today. All right, bye for now. Odabo.